Hi there, everyone. I'm Mark Stutman from Folkway Music. Hope you're all doing well. I've just finished working on this guitar, and I think it's a very interesting model. It's probably not one that many of you have seen or played before, and that makes it a good candidate for a show and tell vid. So here it is. This is an LG-1 from 1942. Gibson LG-1. Those of you who are into old Gibsons might be saying, well, that doesn't look like an LG-1. An LG-1 has sunburst finish, doesn't have a mahogany top. Hey, and I don't think I've ever seen a Banner LG-1. Well, all that's true. The LG-1 as we know it is a post-war model. Sunburst, spruce top, sunburst, this kind of bridge and pickguard, well, almost this kind of bridge, and ladder braced. It was the cheaper version of an LG-2. And it was pretty much the same as an LG-2 except for its ladder bracing, its lack of back center graft, and on many of them they had a simpler looking sunburst finish. However, the first version of the LG-1 looks like this, and there aren't that many of them around. This guitar was built in 42, thanks to Greg Hutton's efforts in digitizing all of Gibson's factory shipping ledgers from 35 to the early 50s. We know now that there are, or were, 122 of these things shipped from Kalamazoo in 1942. And this is one of them. They only made a few batches of these. All the batches start with 770 something. So 7702, 0304. This is 07, 7707H. And yeah, those records add up to 122 instruments. This is the only one that I've ever had in the shop. I've played a few of them in my time. I know the whereabouts of a few of them. So there aren't very many of these guitars around. And it's pretty cool to have one here. I thought I'd show it to you in detail. It's a 1942, so 42 is when Gibson started the whole Banner thing. Everything was in flux at the factory. The war was starting. Employees were coming and going. Models were changing, and so there's a lot of sort of unique things that happened in 42. This being one of them. The LG-1 from this first iteration, it's very much the same guitar as an LG-2. It has mahogany back and sides. It's X-braced. Has the same sort of neck, headstock. Same trimmings as the first LG-2s with the new tortoise shell pattern pickguard instead of fire stripe. And it even has that funny angle wing bridge that you see only in 42 guitars, 1942. You can see this angled wing going on here. Totally different than what predated it and what came afterwards. It's also made out of a different wood. The jury's out on what kind of wood that is. My thinking is that it's Macassar ebony. It's an ebony species of some kind, and it's Macassar. Other people think that it's funny-looking Brazilian rosewood. The only way to find out is if you sand this thing and smell it. You'll know if it's Brazilian rosewood in a second. I don't feel like ruining the bridge to find out. I'm pretty sure that it's an ebony, and it just doesn't look like a rosewood. And you see these on guitars from 42. You see them on J35s. You see them on those very first J50s, these first LG-1s, and you'll see them on the first LG-3s as well, only for a short time. The other thing that's interesting, banner-wise, are the bridge pins. I don't know if you can see those. So they are sort of square-sided or parallel-sided, square-topped black bridge pins. Those only showed up for 2 years during the war, 42 and 43. It's neat to see those on a guitar. And on the back of the headstock, there's the amber button Clusen tuners. Those are generally considered a pre-World War II sort of thing, but this was 1942. It's pretty early into the war years for an American company. Anyways, and then the back and sides have this sort of translucent brown stain to them. It's not a natural finish. It's close to natural, but it's a little bit darker. And the top has the same color stain on it. It differs from an LG-2. The first LG-2s had spruce tops. and they had this similar sort of multiply rosette and binding, but they were spruce tops. But a year later on, you see plenty of mahogany top Banner LG2s as well. So it's really not any different than an LG2, but because of its finish and because of that factory order number and the bridge, it's an LG-1, and it's a much rarer incarnation of a guitar. This thing was just here for a neck reset, so that's all finished up, and it had new frets as well. And like a lot of Gibsons from the war era, they got the neck angle wrong at the factory when they set the neck, and so you can see that there's a shim underneath the bridge. There's a rosewood shim underneath the ebony top of that bridge, which is something that we see with some regularity during these years, where Gibson needed to have a taller bridge to deal with a neck angle that was set a little too far back. I chose to leave that in place. I could have taken this bridge off and removed that shim to mostly avoid setting the neck. I probably would have had to take the neck off anyways, but and that was in my back pocket if I couldn't get enough angle out of the heel. But I chose not to because this bridge hasn't been off the guitar in modern times. It was off when the guitar was new. As you can see here, there's some evidence on the side of the bridge that it's been off and shifted. You can see there's still some glue residue. But I don't want to take a bridge off a guitar that's never been taken off before, and this one is on well, and I saw no reason to sort of mess with that original glue joint. I think that's an important part to a vintage guitar if you can preserve it. But you can see that it was off, I think, when the guitar was new. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know the order of operations, but I think that they set the neck and then realized that they didn't have enough bridge. The saddle was going to be too tall, and so the bridge came off. They shimmed it, they put it back on, which is why you can see sort of weirdness around the side of the bridge over here. And this little extra bit of bare wood right there, it corresponds perfectly to the left-right neck angle on this guitar, which was off. You can see how it's been compensated for with the saddle. The strings come out of the pins and up on an angle to notches in the saddle to get better string alignment over the fretboard, which is how this guitar was when it came to me. Normally, what I try to do when I'm doing a reset is to fix that left-right angle at the same time and get everything to line up perfectly. But this guitar is crazy clean, and it's kind of historically more interesting to leave it as it was with all its weird Gibson idiosyncrasies. So I didn't mess with the footprint of the neck heel, as you can see. I didn't mess with the footprint of the fretboard extension. And I just put, in my new saddle, I put the notches just as it was in the saddle that had to come out because it was too low. And now it plays the way it should. I'm not going to do well today. I've got a cut on this finger and I'm left-handed. But you get a sensation. Oh, wow. So pretty cool guitar. It's strung up with Monel 11s right now, which are pretty light strings, and action that's much lower than I play on a guitar. That was the request of the client. But even with 4 to 5 64ths action, which is what it has, you can still hear that there's some pretty cool things happening inside this guitar. I can't wait to hear it. Tomorrow and the next day, it got strung up about 15 minutes ago. So it's just opening up more and more and more and more as we go. Anyways, that's the Banner LG-1. So now you know they exist. That's what they're about. Hope you found it interesting. And thanks for watching. We'll catch you the next time around. Take care. Bye-bye.